the Velcro too, so the Pistons banner is gonna be up soon. It looks really nice too in the studio. It does. I know in about a week or
Cool.
two, if Mike is clear, we're gonna get him in, get some FaceTime as well with Jeff, Sam, and the crew at the Morning Woodward show. So they can't wait for that. I always like personally having a couple of at least our people that we talk hoops with, having some different perspectives and some different ways of seeing things. And Mike still, at least to this platform and to our community, he brings as that traveling beat writer, something just a
Hmm.
little bit more, and I appreciate it greatly. He's a cool brother doing a lot of good things, but I gotta get this drum roll started, man, so I can ask you how you doing this morning. So what up, though, people? You're locked into the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. I'm your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid. So you guys already know what time it is. Mr. Jeff Iyer Frady, obviously Morning Woodward show. We got a couple things planned for you guys this week. I think Thursday I'll be on Morning Woodward show as well, so definitely make sure you tap in. But we got to get the legend drum rolled in here. I'm wearing an appropriate shirt for today's topic too. So let's do this thing. Let's get this going. Hey yo! Shout out and welcome to the legend Detroit News. Rod Beard, brother, you look like you're dressed for snow. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm just looking out to see if I got to clear that driveway or if I can just stay in for the morning. That's where we are.
I feel like I caused this because I was at the office yesterday, right? And the way that the windows are shaded and like the new concrete that they poured, I was looking out there like I was talking to Terry Foster. I was like, bro, did it snow? And he looked up there, he was like, man, it looks like snow. And everyone gathered around. And this was like early for Woodward and Main Street. We were there from like 7 to 8. And then we looked, we're like, oh no, it's not snowing. Then later, the snow caught up to us. It caught up to
Oh,
us.
it's on you then. This
I
is all on you.
Hopefully it slows down the Portland Trailblazers tonight. But yeah, Pistons play tonight at 7 p.m. Against the Portland Trailblazers. That means we see some familiar faces around here. Chauncey Billups and Jeremy Grant. And the fans are already like, y'all better not boo either one of those. I don't know why people would boo Chauncey. I know that there were some people who were split on Jeremy Grant, but he gave his all here. He spoke very, very highly of the community. He wanted to be here. And we know the reasons why he wanted to be here, too. His connect.
Hold on.
He
How
felt,
could you boo Jeremy Grant? What is that?
I hope nobody does. Come on, people. I keep this very nearby.
What is that?
Man. But Rod, listen. I look forward to these. I need to know what's on the mind of Rod Beard. Rod's thoughts, man. Take it away, brother.
This isn't a bad team. That when you look after a couple of games, this is not a bad team. You could be greedy and say they should have won the Miami game on the road, but this it's sort of like the Lions. It's not a bad team. It's fun to watch. You watch the Lions, and I was telling somebody this yesterday. It used to be with the Lions defense. I would watch when the Lions had the ball, but when the defense came on the field, I would go away. I would go to the fridge or go to the bathroom or do something else. And like, okay, do they have the ball back now so I can actually watch? The defense is reasonable to watch. It's not a scary sight to see the other team with the ball and the Lions defense on the field. It's actually watchable that they might get a pass rush, they might get an interception. Something good is going to happen there. Same way I feel about these Pistons, that with Cade back, this is much more palatable. The offense has a flow to it. You want to see the pick and roll with him and Duren every time down the court. There are and Asar is just good to. If you want to just do an ISO cam on Asar, you could just do that. He's not going to be able to guard Zach LaVine, and when Zach LaVine is on like he was, it doesn't matter. You could have Rodman or MJ or somebody out there. They're not going to really hold him down the way that
Bro, we saw when
that
Sadiq
to
Bey
keep him
was
from
on.
50.
Yeah. Like when
Yeah.
Sadiq Bey was on, he was hitting for 50. Nobody could stop him that night. When guys are going in the NBA, they are going.
Right. If you're scoring 50 on anybody, generally it's not because of bad defense. It's because that shot is falling and you can do whatever you feel like that day. And that's what it felt like with Zach LaVine. Was just I've watched games in person with him, just nothing you can do. Just filthy, stinky stuff that he does. And he seems to do that against the Pistons a lot. But I felt good about the Bulls game. I really felt good about that Miami game, the way that they didn't give up and came back. So this first stretch of the season, very encouraging. Good to see Cade is back to himself and maybe even a little better than himself. I don't think I expected him to be this good at this point. I thought he might have to ramp up a little and take, I don't know, 5-10 games to get back to his old self. He came out from jump like, let me reintroduce myself. Allow me to reintroduce myself. So I feel good about this team.
C to
I
the
mean,
AD.
it's just it's decent to watch, and it feels good coming out of 3 or 4 years of just really bad basketball to see that you can watch from game to game and you get something out of it.
Man, I like it. And you really, really touched on a lot of different points that we're probably going to dissect a little bit more as we get into the podcast. And I wanted to, with our main topics, I wanted to talk about 2 to 3 things we've disliked so far, 2 to 3 things that we've liked. And it's not that the dislikes are things that are unfixable. And talking about Cade, because I don't want to be fair to our audience, I love Cade and what he's done this season. I believe he's shown more than star potential. I think he's showing that he is a next level player. And obviously the one thing that a lot of people are keying in on as it relates to what he could do better are the turnovers. And so I wanted to start with a few dislikes so people don't just tune out when we talk about the things that we like. But that's probably one of the dislikes. But I like you always say, temper. When we look at the aspect of how these turnovers are being made, you know what I see from Cade? A guy who's not necessarily up to NBA speed yet, if that makes sense. He took off a lot, like the large part of last season, and he's played largely in gym runs, including, even the Team USA practices. We don't know what the defense was or wasn't, but I noticed that there are certain plays, like Cade's turnovers, they're just things that are not characteristic of him. It just looks like he just needs to kind of get up to that NBA speed, as well as the other component here, him as the main facilitator. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, even with them still moving him off ball and giving him some reps there. So as this team continues to develop chemistry, as the spacing is kind of collapsed in on him, which is another one of my dislikes. So they kind of go hand in hand. Floor spacing and Cade turnovers. I think that they're connected along with him getting back up to speed. And I think that some of the things I thought would take 10 to 20 games for him to kind of get into the flow or into the rhythm of, he, like you stated in Rod's thoughts, I believe he's mastered a lot of those. And I believe that the turnovers are something that we're going to see come back down to more of his career averages of about 3.5 turnovers a game, which is not bad. Right now he's sitting at I think about 4.7 to 5 turnovers a game. And if these were he can't make plays, if he's not getting 8 and 10 assists here and there, then it would be whoa, what is going on? It would be a little bit more alarming. But the turnovers have been just that's not even Cade-esque. And you can see his face dog, why did I do that? And so to me, it's a dislike. And those are my only 2 right now, floor spacing and Cade turnovers. The defense, man, I was sitting here saying, can the defense get back to the Jeremy Grant years where they were 24th in the league? We were talking about Asar Thompson being kind of Jeremy Grant light and playing that role. Bro, what? 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 The rebounding, the blocks, they're not crediting him for some of the steals that I believe he should have, but some of them are plays where he's knocking the ball off of people's legs, like with Zach LaVine. He was getting his until about the last 4 to 5 minutes of that game, where Asar Thompson kind of took the defense up a notch, man, and it looked like he was wearing his jersey. It was a masterclass. He had the steal, I know, with about 1:32 minutes left to go, where Zach LaVine was going up the court, and Asar just came and I think over his right shoulder and just stripped the ball, took it back down, and I think threw a lob up to somebody. And it was just this is beautiful. And then there was one on the sideline, on the left 3-point line, where Zach LaVine was trying to dance on Asar Thompson, and he was able to just hit the ball, hit his leg, went out of bounds. But I know we're not to the likes yet. I did want to get your thoughts on at least the Cade turnovers or floor spacing and any dislikes to the start of the season for you. I gotta temper, B.
Yeah, I think that the Cade turnovers is the bigger part of the bigger issue of just turnovers in general. where they are last in the league. They're averaging 19 a game. That you can't give good teams multiple opportunities
Right.
and transition. Your defense is good, but you can't be back in transition all the time and try to stop fast breaks going the other way. You're going to get shot in the foot at some point with that. So I think that's one thing I don't like. Cades are like you said, it's not going to be continual that you see those types of turnovers. But along with that, I would like to see somebody else handling the ball sometimes. And maybe that's why Killian is there, to do some of that, is to take some of that ball handling pressure off of Cade. So I just wonder how that transforms as we get into the meat of the season, when we see Monty Morris back, when we see what that starting lineup looks like. And I'm assuming that means you'll see Asar kind of shift to the 2, Bogey get back in that lineup too. I'm assuming that. And again, this starting lineup is good. I think I like what I've seen from that. We're not getting to likes, dislikes.
It's difficult. They put a lot of good stuff out there, bro.
I'll say free throws too, that they missed quite a few free throws. That could have made that Miami game a little bit easier and a little bit closer. And again, you can never really talk about free throws as a thing and say, well, they need to practice more free. I mean, every team practices free throws at the end of practice. That's not it. I just want to see them make a few more of those. They are last in the league in 3-point attempts. So I think that's part of the Cade coming back, and he's going to be a little bit more of a midi, and they're doing more stuff inside with pick and roll stuff. So I think I would like to see more perimeter shooting, but again, without Bogey and with the starting lineup they have, who is shooting threes for you? Is it Stu shot a ton of threes so far. Cade shot his share, and Asar and Killian have kind of put some up, but not a ton. Cade is averaging 6 a game. Stu is 3.5. Killian is 4. I don't want to see Killian shooting that many threes.
Yeah, I don't either. Sometimes I almost feel like Killian's in a position to hit the hezzy, the pump fake, and drive into the mid range, where he's actually been pretty good this season. You know, the Miami game, he was 0 of 6 from the 3-point line, but he was 4 of 6 inside, and a couple of those were those kind of elbow jumpers that he's starting to look like that's part of his bag. That's when he's feeling comfortable shooting the ball. I think that he's just thinking too much when he's out there on the 3-point line. If you can hit that kind of rhythm shot at the elbow at a good clip off the dribble, that means that your shot is not anything necessarily wrong with it. But when you're back at the 3-point line and you're thinking, man, I missed 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row, sometimes those things can creep in and start to mess with the shot confidence just a little bit, man. And so what makes it difficult is that I believe Killian Hayes has done some other good things. I believe his defense is definitely necessary. We saw it in the preseason, little shades of it, and we said, let's wait till the season, and we saw his defense matters. I don't know right now in the squad if we have another guard off the bench that's playing the type of defense that he's playing or capable of playing. I've liked his playmaking. No one else is throwing the type of lobs he's throwing. He's throwing lobs into places where only Asar Thompson and only Jalen Duren can get those passes. And that's very, very key, because those players necessarily, like at least last year, Jalen Duren didn't show too much of that pick and roll lob ability last year. And that's what we were saying. We want to wait until we see what he can do with Cade. And sometimes you have to have the right type of pass to be able to get that to him when they're not able to. Like Bagley, he sets those I wipe you out of the picture screen to the point that when the lob goes up, he's not dunking over nobody. He's just, bam, by myself. Duren sets good screens, gets the roll, but the player that he's screening is not necessarily getting wiped out. And I've seen Killian get a couple nice lob assists right over the outstretched hands of the defender, but not too high for Jalen Duren or Asar Thompson to be able to come down. A couple of them I thought were too high for Asar. And he was just like, I still got it. And I was just like, wow, what do we have? What do we have here, man? What do we have? But I agree with those. I think
let me clean that up a little bit, because there's context that goes with this. They're last in the league in 3-point attempts with just under 30 a game. However, they're shooting 41% from three, which is fourth in the league. So that's the balance that you're doing there is you're shooting fewer of them, but you're making more. Okay, I'll take that. I just want to see more of the right attempts. And again, if you're shooting with Killian, but you got Ivy's hitting, what is Ivy hitting? 41% from three.
He's been
take
decent.
It to 44%. Take that all day, every day. Stu is shooting 43, Cade shooting 40, Bags is shooting 50, Alec Burks is 54, and the only anomaly that's in here is Joe Harris is shooting, so that's 4, that's 6, so like 1 of 6. That's going to turn around. We know historically that that's going to turn around, and some of those other ones are going to balance out. So the mix of it is, as a team, you are shooting the second most 2-point attempts in the league and the fewest 3-pointers. So they've kind of shifted that inside outside to say, we'll take the ones in the paint. We'll take balls going to the basket in exchange for not shooting as many threes. And if you want the smarter threes, cool, but you're making 41%. So I'm not going to complain about taking threes. I just want to see that a little bit more, because if you can still keep that at 37% as a team, you're still doing good.
Yeah, man. I didn't know that second most 2-point attempts in the league. That I think speaks really, really well to Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and Cade Cunningham getting into that paint. Yep. Even Alec Burks, you know him. If he's not shooting a three, it's that pump fake right into the middle, either foul merchant or he's hitting that mid range as well. And Cade Cunningham, just to talk about the 3-point shooting and the floor spacing in general, one of the things we highlighted earlier, and it kind of ties into some of my likes. I'm going to start with Monty Williams' impact on the offense and the defense. Shout out to Sean Murphy from Half Court and Jeff Iafredi. They were talking about this, and Troy Sergey on From Half Court Pod as well, that the thing that they were looking to see with Monty Williams was how fast did his identity, from just the jump, how fast would his identity be noticeable in the team's offense and defense. We covered it as it relates to the breakthrough and the things he was going to try and instill. I was like a kid in a candy store when I heard him talk about the 0.5-second offense for first time, and saying that I really see it, and I see that it's Monty Williams saying I see that it's taking shape. One of the things that I love, and we talked about the 0.5-second offense in Phoenix, taking the ball a little bit out of Devin Booker's hands, just a little bit, not a whole lot, but it reduces usage some. But what increased? His 3-point attempts and his 3-point field goal percentage and his 3-point makes. With Cade Cunningham, right? They identified that Cade Cunningham was a really good catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter, much better than when he just has the ball in his hands. But after he's knocked down 1 or 2 off the catch-and-shoot, they've noticed when he got the ball in his hands, he's feeling himself. And so Cade Cunningham this year, I pulled it up, he's shooting 40% from 3 this year, man. 40%. And it's not like he's just taking 1 or 2 a game. He's out there getting it, man. And where is he really largely making these? Off of the catch and the shoot. It's like this kind of 0.5-second offense, it puts players like a Killian Hayes, who's going to have the ball in his hands, like an Asar Thompson, who's going to have the ball in his hands, in a position to say, you know what, let me just get into my offense quick. Let me get it into the hands of a shooter. And in a lineup like this, when you're waiting for Boyan to come back, it kind of makes sense to be able to play Cade a little bit off ball, which I think helps that overall percentage that you're talking about, even though they're lower ones, which I think that's a good thing for right now. When you get back guys like Monty Morris, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Isaiah Livers, that's when I could honestly see the team's 3-point attempts really start to go up, because you'll have the personnel for it. So I'm not going to necessarily cry over some of the misses we've seen from Killian Hayes. Some of you put it out there, 40-something% on those attempts. I can live with that with this current lineup, and you're 500. You probably had a chance to be 3-1, And another thing that I like, and I'm gonna, before I get to Monty Williams' impact, when I'm finished with Monty Williams' impact on offense and defense, is the fact that they're 500 to this point and how they got there. But the impact on defense, that's the thing that I think I've been even more impressed with. With the offense, I always know that it's Cade that's going to kind of be the straw that stirs the drink. But on defense is where I was wondering, okay, we have these players. How are we going to get to a point where they're playing? We went through the first half or the first 20 games of the season. How are they going to lock up some of these teams? To this point, outside of OKC, they've largely done a really good job holding teams to like 105 and under. And even against OKC, that fight that we saw against Miami, I saw that league go 20 points, and then against OKC, they brought it back to under 10, 20 points, brought it back to under 10. They didn't give up. They kept fighting. And largely, I think that their ability to play defense helps to mask any aspect of what they may or may not do on offense. I talked a lot about, reducing the second chance opportunities for the other team and giving yourself more opportunities as well, utilizing the defense. And I believe that the Pistons have done a great job at that, man. If you look at the defensive backboard, they've been out rebounding their other opposing teams by like 10, 15 a game. They out rebounded the Bulls, Rod, by 21 rebounds, bro. 21. I don't even understand that, man. That's insane to me. And so, what's up?
You know who leads the league in rebounding?
Hey, say it. Say it for the people. I'll give you a little drum roll. Hold on.
51 per game. The Pistons lead the league in rebounding. Now, I can hear the people in the back talking about Stu shouldn't be in the starting lineup. But what is Stu averaging in terms of boards? 9.3. That dude can rebound. And we're not even talking about Duren. But Duren, Stu, Thompson, of those 50 rebounds a game, that is 33 of those. 33 of your 50 rebounds a game are coming from that starting front court, but people didn't want to start Stewart. That's it. That's all I got to say.
You know what, man? I'm still cracking up at Isaiah Stewart against the Hornets, man. That one clip where he's just like, after the game? And it just stood there for a minute. And shout out James Edwards of The Athletic. He was like, no, they dapped up after the game. There's respect there. But come on. When you got a player like that, you can shoot a few threes. You can. If anyone is going to sit here, you can miss a few threes. Let me just say that. I don't care. When you got a player like that nobody else really wants to mess with, and then when teams try to, it absolutely backfires. Come on, people. What are we talking about? I remember people for a couple years, up until the Going to Work Pistons were the Going to Work Pistons, talking about Ben Wallace offense, Ben Wallace, why this, why that. And I remember when Monty Williams came out and just straight up said it, like, we go to Ben Wallace first in the beginning of these games on purpose. We don't really care what the outside noise is. We know what he can do. We see him in practice. And we're going to continue to go to him because when we do that, the defense and everything else that he brings to this team, it just is better. And you know what? It takes somebody like that, very heady, like a Chauncey Billups, to be able to recognize that. Like when he went to the referee and told the referee, hey, can you give Sheed a tech, please? Like early in the game, don't let him do that to you. And then Sheed went off. Look, you see how this team tries to play, and I see how they try to feed Isaiah Stewart, and I see how they feed off of what Isaiah Stewart is bringing to the game. You cannot replace his energy. I've been one who's been saying for the Pistons to kind of take this leap into from where they are now trying to make the play-in and try and sneak into the playoffs to playoff contention yearly, that maybe Stewart is the position that they're going to have to replace in the starting lineup, though I believe he is the heart and soul of this team, regardless. Like even if he came off the bench as a defensive Corliss Williamson. But man, just seeing his impact, seeing how I see players don't even really test him, man. Like that's the crazy part. And then the rebounding. If Asar and Duren are getting rebounds, someone has to be blocking out their men as well. It's not like Isaiah Stewart. I look at when I go back to some of the games, this is weird, bro. This is the weird part. Asar and Duren have put a lot on tape rebounding, and they're still double-teaming Stu on rebounds, the opposing team. These are intricate little pieces to the game that I don't think people are thinking about or looking at. They just see Asar get the rebound. They see Duren get the rebound. Some of these rebounds, Asar is wide open. Why? Because of the position he plays. He's out on the wing. So when the shot goes up or when a team is playing zone defense, they're going to press on and double either Duren or Stewart. Asar is able to kind of sneak around the back, sneak around the baseline, and he's able to just get the rebound so cleanly that then he turns it into direct offense with him dribbling the ball up the court. Those are the things that I'm looking at now. Like, man, you kind of need that in this starting lineup. People keep talking about, oh my goodness, their 3-point shooting is this or that. Oh, they're shooting a good percentage. And when they're not, guess who's getting offensive rebounds? That front line is doing a great job. For Asar Thompson to be somebody out there shooting from 3, you need a Duren and you need a Stewart in there to muck it up. And we said it, man. When you this is one of the things I wanted to see. When you get Duren around guys who are trying to actively play defense, it reduces his usage and what he has to do. He doesn't have to go down there and defend the players that Jalen Duren is going to defend. So I like what Monty Williams has kind of brought to the table. I like already how the things he has stated with the 0.5-second offense, as well as defense is going to be their mentality. Those are their identities right now. You know, that's probably my biggest likes to this point, man. What's you gotta give me one of your bigger likes as well, because I know you might have to run soon.
No, I'm good for today. Good for today.
Ooh, let's go.
So let me build off that point that you just made about Stewart and Thompson. I talked to Stu in the locker room at the preseason home opener. And I said, what do you think about Asar? He said, that dude is just a dog. He is a defensive. When you're a good defender and you see another good defender, you guys automatically mesh because you have the same kind of personality. And you say, that's a dude that I know if I mess up, he's got my back. Or if he messes up, I got his back. You have a different sort of bond than anybody else because you know you're connected in a certain way. You got to watch that dude and he's got to watch you. And if you're not making a play, he's going to make a defensive play. What I like from Asar is that not just the rebounding, 10.5 rebounds a game. And it's 4-game sample size, I get it. But we said it in preseason. We said it in summer league. That's what this dude does. He rebounds for that position. So what he's able to do on the perimeter takes some of that pressure off of Stu that he doesn't have to run around like a madman, and he knows they can switch. And what did we say at that game? That we had that one instance with Book and KD, and they just said, switch it. It's okay. And they switched it. So that defensive versatility is going to be contagious where you're going to see Asar guard some taller 4s and he just doesn't sweat it at all. So I like that idea that defensively, they just both feel like they have a kindred spirit that can play that way for them. And we know what K does on defense. We've talked about Killian's his play, but then when you add in what Duren's doing better defensively too, which game was that where they had a block and then the guy went back up and they blocked the comeback too, the putback, and it's like, what are we watching right now? These dudes are out here defending the paint. I think that was the Miami game. The rim. That might have been the Miami game. So it is. I think you see games. A different. That could be true too, but you see a different defensive mentality where they're more connected, and it's not just Stu's out there running around with his hair on fire, but now he's got a running mate who does the same thing, and it's good to see that part is kind of contagious. But the other thing that I like too is that they're just young guys who are willing to run. I like the Cade aspect of this. And we talked about the pick and roll with Duren. The pocket passes are so flippin' effortless. It's just, you don't want to get excited after 4 games. You want to temper the enthusiasm a little bit. But at the same time, it's good basketball that they were able to put away a Bulls team despite what Zach LaVine is doing. They played Miami really tight. They went in and got the wins that they should have gotten. And going to OKC, the schedule kind of sucks right now anyway with the back-to-backs, but they don't go to Charlotte and win often. They don't stay with Miami like that very often in Miami. So that you've had 3 of these first 4 games on the road and they're 2-2 coming back. This isn't a 1-3 or an 0-4 start to the season where it's doom and gloom already. That's what I like, is that they've been able to fight and they have a different look to them. I don't know if that's all Monty. I don't know what exactly that is. They have a different look to them and a different composure. The turnovers you want to see calm down a little bit, but you like some of the aggressiveness. Here's the other thing I like.
Yeah. Speak on
Ivy
it, bro.
off the bench. Ivy off the bench because he is a mismatch. For most teams, you have an older veteran backup point guard, and Ivy gets on the floor and he's right around him. They can't stay with him. So you have a baked in advantage at that Ivy spot. Who was it? Was it Javon Carter? I think that was it. I mean, Carter guarding Ivy. What are we doing? Why are we even talking about that? Ivy's going to just run circles around him. So his ability to get to the rim, I think, adds a different dynamic to that second group. You've got Burks shooting with the ability to shoot the threes there. So I like what they're doing with the rotations and the advantage that they have with that second group. I could go on with likes all day and dislikes all day, but I'll cut it there.
I'm glad you brought up the bench unit because that was one that, throughout most of the season, I've been like, you know what? They look like they have a little bit more depth than I thought. And they're still missing key pieces, key players to this rotation. Monty Morris wasn't signed to be at the end of the bench. Bojan Bogdanovic is supposed to start, and Isaiah Livers was supposed to play a big role. I thought that the second unit was going to be a little gassed without, if Killian Hayes was supposed to be coming off the bench and the rotations losing those players. That's been, I think, one of the most bright spots to the season is how well that bench has performed. And I do wonder if it was flip-flop, Jaden Ivey in the starting lineup, Killian Hayes off the bench. I sometimes wonder what the output would be. Now, Marcus Sasser, look, man, my goodness. Our rookies, I have to continue to say that they have elite potential, but Marcus Sasser's ability, certain skill sets, his handling, his dribble and handling, man, and his ability to create space off of that, I'm sorry, he's elite at that. People cannot stay in front of him. And I remember he came down, I think you were talking about it last time, where he came down and hit the three, got fouled, and then he, or they call it moving screen. And he came right back down. It was like, plop, 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 three. It's just like, wow. If they continue to develop at these paces, and I told people this when they drafted Sasser, he's more of a combo guard, less of this kind of this playmaking pure guard. So I do believe he needs somebody like a Monte Morris still in that lineup with him. I think that will help take his game to the next level as well because he's a really good three-point shooter. I've really liked that aspect of his game, being able to stretch the floor off the dribble, off of the pick and roll very easily. A couple times players went under the pick, and I'm letting it fly from over top. And I've absolutely loved that from Sasser, man. And the bench, Alec Burks, he's been as advertised, and a lot of times people, and we're going to get into this a little bit later as well. We talk about this kind of rebuild and where the Pistons are right now as it relates to restore, like the trajectory in terms of how it's looking, because Tom Gores has some interesting statements. Alec Burks was acquired in that trade with Jalen Duren. When we talk about the freedom and the flexibility of the Pistons, we're talking about the fact that they were able to trade. They had to get Jeremy Grant's contract off the book, and then they were able to assist the Knicks in signing Jalen Brunson. But what did the Pistons end up with? One of the nominees for Eastern Conference Player of the Week in Jalen Duren. Shout out Mike Curtis of the Detroit News, Pistons beat writer there. He said Pistons center Jalen Duren was among the nominees for Eastern Conference Player of the Week. He averaged 18 points, 15.3 rebounds, 6 of those offensive, 4 assists, 2.7 blocks on 80% from the field in Detroit's 3 games, 2-1.
Man, Troy is terrible. Troy is terrible. How do you
Alec
go
Burks in that deal?
Troy is terrible. What is he doing out here?
25th pick and cleared the cap space and was able to bring them in. And now has enough cap space that if he so loved Jeremy Grant as much as he does, they could just absorb him. That's what I'm saying. That's ridiculous, man. Do people stop and think about that? Everything that Troy has done, because I put out a tweet that showed the Pistons' potential cap space, right? If they wanted to renounce everybody, let me pull up the tweet, man, because people are like, yeah, but that's misleading because they have a lot of other contracts. I was like, wait, look at the names of the people under contract, and then look at the names of the people that they could just renounce. So the Pistons have a projected practical cap space of $88 million. It could be as high as 91. It's probably going to sit somewhere between 50 and 60 unless there's a huge deal on the horizon. But the names that are under the guaranteed contracts next year, this is masterful, Rod. Listen to these names. There's 8 players who they have to pay next year. Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Stewart, and this is in order of their contracts. Bojan getting the most right now, $19,000. Isaiah Stewart, $15 million, $19 million for Bojan. Cade Cunningham, $13.9 million. Marvin Bagley, $12.5 million. Asar Thompson, $8 million. Jaden Ivey, almost $8 million. Jalen Duren, $4.5 million. And Marcus Sasser, $2.75 million. That's it. That's it. You want to talk about freedom and flexibility that Tom Gores was talking about? He said, I couldn't see that first. It's been 3 or 4 years to get to this point. For him, 4 to 5 years, because Ed Stefanski kind of sat in the gap of SVG, and then when they hired Troy Weaver. So he said, it took 4 to 5 years. I had to be convinced. Shout out to Omari Sankofa, hero of the Free Press, who wrote the article. And he stated, but I see it now. He's like, I'm happy with what we see. Obviously, there's still more to go. But I like where we're at, and the fact that we have the freedom and the flexibility to now bring this thing completely home is amazing. And when I just look at this, I'm just like, wow, he really did this thing. And he talked about booting the cap space that they had last season to this season. Everybody was saying Cam Johnson. Go out there and get Cam Johnson. This was even after we got Asar Thompson. Troy Weaver, and we talked about this on the show with the media scrum. And this one, Mike Curtis was like, oh, look, when they have scrums, we just go over there and da-da-da-da. He was kind of coaching me through it as well. And so we went over there, and it was one of the most beneficial media scrums I've been in because Troy Weaver laid out his entire plan. He said, we believe that Asar Thompson is starter worthy. He's going to have to learn some nuances on offense, but his defense is day one ready. He will be defending the best players out there. And then he said, because of the hiring of Monty Williams that we got Asar Thompson, I believe if they weren't able to get Asar or one of those kind of top other 3, I don't know how they felt necessarily about Amin Thompson. I kind of do, but I don't think that Amin would have wrecked their free agency plans. He said because of the hiring of Monty and because of Asar Thompson, he was going to wait to make the splash because he believed that Asar Thompson was that home run hit. That's huge to me because there are a lot of people who wanted him to go out there and cash out on Cam Johnson or go out there and grab Kyle Kuzma or one of these kind of other Kelly Oubre.
But they said it's on defense. It's about defense, and that's what they've been preaching from the beginning. And if you've been paying attention, not you, but people have been paying attention, Cam Johnson, not a good defender, not an Asar type defender, and you're gonna pay $30 million for that. Nah, don't sign me up for that. I don't want that.
No, yeah, somebody told me because somebody put. And I gotta shout him out. Jay Gibson _15. I believe that his intentions are well, but he believes that we have plenty of options this offseason. Kyle Kuzma, Cam Johnson, Grant Williams, John Collins, Kelly Oubre.
Who excites you in that group?
You mean Cam Johnson, who's out again, injured? Super Isaiah Livers. That's what I'm saying. Like, what exactly are we doing? Because none of them do, especially knowing this. Those are people you sign in free agency. Troy has gone out and he has acquired. I have a list of people he's acquired that's better than everybody there. Jeremy Grant, Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Stewart, and Sadiq Bey, and Alec Burks. Those were all through acquisition where he had to go, maneuver the cap space a little bit because everyone says, who's signing here anyway, right? On one hand is who's signing here, then on the other hand is you didn't sign anybody. But everything he's put on tape as it relates to acquiring people, man, it's been supreme. It's been superb. And he goes into this next offseason with this much cap space. They're probably going to keep their draft pick this season as well, and a whole lot of flexibility. I keep feeling like there may be something that happens at the trade deadline too, because he knows now. In the past, you don't go and acquire somebody with a hefty, lengthy contract because you were still trying to build components to this squad. You were still trying to see what exactly you had. Because what if one of the young players don't work out the way that you thought? What if one of your veteran players who you only have on like 2 to
Mm-hmm.
3 year deals, like Bojan and Marvin Bagley, don't work out the way that you thought? You can't go and just strap and saddle this team down so they can be middling like Washington Wizards. I'm not trying to see this team for like the next however many years look like the SVG era or even the beginning of Dwayne Casey. Those are those teams that would just barely scratch the surface. We saw these Pistons land between 9 and 10 every year for a long time. Those types of names I heard there, if we're a squad that has everything together and you just need to add a piece, cool. But when I'm looking at this team right now, I don't even know which one of those guys will start when our team is fully healthy. I'm just being serious with you. I don't want Grant Williams over Isaiah Stewart. What are we doing? What are exactly we talking about? I don't even want, honestly, I don't want Cam Johnson or Kyle Kuzma over Asar Thompson. And I don't necessarily know how these players, I get it. People say three-point shooting, three-point shooting, three-point shooting. They're shooting pretty fine. I'm not replacing Killian or whoever's going to take that spot, like which will probably be Bojan and sliding Asar up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want that. It just, to me, doesn't make sense. You have a squad right now that's outputting a little bit better than a lot of the detractors believed. And outputting to us, we said, can they come out 500 after the first 6 games, 10 games, 20 games of the season, or be somewhere around it? Right now, they're looking like a team that can potentially do that. And I don't believe that you go and wreck your opportunities to go into another season where there's going to be some disgruntled stars. There's going to be teams looking to make changes and moves. There are better players out there, man, where the Pistons can go and be absolutely in the mix. Absolutely, because they put themselves there. If you can do that while also improving your team, because Monty Williams is supposed to be worth something, right? If he can turn some of these guys into something, who knew Jalen Duren was going to come out and look like the Incredible Hulk? Who knew that Asar Thompson was going to come out here and look like Guardian Alarm? Like, who knew that? Who knew Cade Cunningham was going to come back and be a star player? I mean, we talked about it, but who knew? You know what I'm saying? Like, who knew? And these guys are taking steps forward. Everybody cried about Jaden Ivey coming off the bench. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everything Monty Williams is starting to put his fingers on, man, you're starting to really see this squad kind of respond in a positive manner. And I absolutely love it, to the point that the things that we dislike are things that we know are going to get corrected. Cade is not averaging 5 assists a game for the whole season. He's not. This team is going to take a little bit more three-point shots, and their true shooting overall will rise even if the three-point percentage goes down just a little bit. Why? Because Bojan Bogdanovic doesn't miss threes that much. That's why. And if they decide that they want to trade him or Burks, you know what I'm saying? They still have one or the other, man. I know Alec Burks is on an expiring deal, and so it makes it kind of interesting to see what they're going to do with him. Sometimes I wonder if they're able to feature him a little bit more now that Bojan is out and potentially dangle him out in front of another team. But, Rod, man, what are your thoughts on, where this team is as it relates to its freedom and flexibility, as well as, I don't even call it booting the cap space. I think if they missed out on Asar, he would have had to or felt obligated to go and potentially try and play with one of these middling players. I call them a little bit more middling compared to what I believe he can get his hands into this coming offseason.
But the freedom and the flexibility is what Goris talked about, that they came out of with. They were sort of handcuffed with the Drummond, the Reggie, all of those big contracts. And even to a degree, it was the Jeremy Grant, where if you're not going to re-sign him for big numbers, then you punt that and you get a draft pick and you get a younger player who is playing at an all-star level right now. Then you do that. You don't put yourself in another cash crunch where you don't have that cap flexibility. And I think that's what Goris learned from that first time around, is to say, I don't want to be back there unless, and it's what we talked about, unless Cam Johnson is a superstar, definite all-star, but superstar level player. You don't paint yourself back into that corner to say, we don't have any flexibility to do anything else and we can't trade. We had talked before about how when you're putting together a salary cap and a structure, you want blocks, you want certain salary levels of people. 20s, you can move easily. Who do you have at that 20 level? You got Joe Harris and Bogey, but you don't have anybody above that. There's no unmovable, ridiculous contract that you're just stuck with for 4 years. And if you're not sure, if you're not 100% sure that dude is going to be your centerpiece and your building block of your foundation, then don't do it. And that's what they wanted to maintain with that, is to say, hey, we'll take on a 1 or 2 year deal for 30 or 20 in that case, but we're not taking on big money for a long time because we want the flexibility to be able to do some other things. They learned from that. Troy came in and wanted to clean that up immediately, and Goris learned from that previously not to be in that position. So the flexibility is a huge piece of this. Now, are there pieces you can you do anything with Wiseman? If you want to trade him, you absolutely can. Can you do something with Bogey? That's the flexibility piece of that. And that's so important, is that now you start getting the teams who are desperate or who want pieces. If this season doesn't work out, or if the season does, and you decide, hey, we want to flip this, we want to package Bogey to a team and we'll take on a longer term deal that we're comfortable with. At least we get to choose that, and we know who we're working with at that point, instead of just let's take on a Cam Johnson where there are so many question marks and uncertainties. And injuries were one of those big question marks. You don't paint yourself in that corner. How would you feel if you had signed Cam Johnson and now he's hurt at the beginning of the year? Now you've already started that descent into what you had last year with Cade. You don't have that now. You have Bogey out, and you still feel good about where your season's going. That shows that you made the right decisions there.
Man, yeah, with the pinky up, Rod, with the pinky up. That's what I'm saying. It would, and I know there's still a lot of season left to play, but just looking at this thing on paper with the players that are out and on the way back, Monty, I don't think people understand that list of names that this individual wanted Troy to sign as it relates to the guards of it. Monty Morris is like that level of player. As it relates to the shooting guards of it or small forwards, Bojan Bogdanovic is better than all of those players named, and would fetch more right now in a deal right now. To get any of those other players, we would have had to saddle down for at least 3 to 4 years. I just don't, that's not even Troy's MO, man. Jeremy Grant didn't even get that. And he loved Jeremy Grant. Bojan Bogdanovic, 2 years. Marvin Bagley, 2 to 3 years. And you continue to pace this thing all the way throughout Troy's tenure, and you kept telling me, look what he's doing. He's signing these guys to fit the windows, so that the core of this team you can grow with, you can see who's who, you can give Cade and Duren the bag. Asar's probably going to get the bag, and everything else is going to have to be built around them. That's the only way that you get longevity. If you go out here right now and you give Cam Johnson a bag, what are you doing when you actually have to start paying Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson? If you go out here and you sign another one of these guys middling, what are you doing when you got to pay these people? I just don't understand, bro. What's good, brother?
FYI, and I missed this from yesterday, so this must have happened in the afternoon or later in the evening. Pistons picked up the options for next season, 24-25, on Cade, Ivy, Duren. It's not a huge surprise, but what are you paying Cade next year? $14 million. Ivy, $8 million. Duren, $4.5 million. I think the flexibility is working out with you're building around these young guys. To your point, yes, you're going to have to pay them, but you still got a couple of years before you get there. You're gonna max Cade anyway, because you are. Like, there's no surprise there. You can write that in the books right now, that when Cade's up for his max extension, then you just pay it, because that's what you're supposed to do. And is he going to do something to get you out of that? No, he's just, that's your rookie extension. And you can look at what they paid Anthony Edwards, any of those cats. That's the number that you're dealing with. So pencil that. You can don't even pencil that in. You can just ink that in.
That's
and
already
just
in
say
there.
That's what the number is. Right, that's already there. And now let's worry about Duren and Ivy the following year, 25-26, of what that's going to look like.
Yep. Look, man, I felt like we covered everything very, very succinctly. At least got our points across in a way that I think it'll give the chat the fuel and the ammunition they need to try and combat us for a whole nother week. And I love it. I love it, man. There's some people, though, who I asked people this morning, like, y'all really wanted Troy to cash out on Cam Johnson? How come I got a whole bunch of no's this morning? Where when we were covering this thing, everybody wanted Cam. Look, I believe that when this squad is ready to kind of take that next step up is when you go out there and you grab a Kelly Oubre or Kyle Kuzma, one of those guys. But they cost
Not
bread,
not
man.
not even in. Are you excited by Kelly Oubre? Where it's like, yeah, that's that piece that's going to get us there.
I'm
Would
just
you
not.
rather have would you rather have Kelly Oubre or Asar?
Asar and Asar.
Would you?
And,
I
and
mean, so any of these cats before we have that conversation, would you rather have Asar or them dudes? Because as soon as you say Asar's on a rookie deal that you have for a couple more years, so you're not paying him 30 mil because we just talked about it. You're
yep.
gonna have to pay Cade. You're gonna have to pay Duren. You're gonna have we. The Stewart contract, people were fuming about that because they said it was too much. Look at the production right now. Would you is he
He's being
living up
paid
to the
like a
value of that
backup right now,
contract?
bro.
Bro, and is he starting and giving you shooting 43%? What did we say? 40 or 43% from three and averaging almost 10 rebounds a game? Come on, man. Come on, man. So the people who want to say Troy is a train wreck and he's not putting this roster together and not giving them the flexibility, they have an agenda, obviously,
You know what?
because this seems like it's coming together for me.
Look, you guys, look, we do this every now and then. I tell the people, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got 2 first-round picks in this coming draft. This is what I will say right now. Based on everything from what I've studied from Troy and looked at his moves, he already knows who he's going to pick up next offseason. And I think he already knows who he wants in this draft. And if he can get another one of these picks, like a Stewart or an Asar Thompson, anywhere in that draft, or like a player like similar to Isaiah Livers, who will have a little bit better health, why would you sign one of these other guys to be on the roster at the same time as a draft pick that they're probably going to get this year? That's you're right on that. It's like if he can go out there and grab one more draft pick, I think that they sit in this crossroads right now where they realize we'll probably be okay. We got the cap space to go out there and make things work. But what if we can get just one more? If the team is showing great improvements and you can get one more of these players on these rookie contracts right before you got to start cashing out on Cade, why not put yourself in position to do that? Because it's not just what you put out there on the floor, but how what you put out there on the floor meshes with what you're putting in your books as well. Troy is not just out there playing puzzles. It's not like NBA 2K and it's not your money. Tom Gores is who he has to answer to. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, it's going to be his job on the line if he mismanages everything. It's not just the players, but what they're being paid. And I believe it's very, very savvy. When I looked at how they got 8 players and their salary cap is this high, and then you look and say, oh, because most of these players are on rookie deals. That's why. Most of these guys are, Isaiah Stewart just got his, and they locked him in for a steal. Do you know what that's going to look like next season? A steal. Cade Cunningham's on his rookie deal. Marvin Bagley's being paid less than Cade Cunningham, who's Cade on a rookie deal. Asar rookie deal. Jaden rookie deal. Jalen rookie deal. Marcus rookie deal. And that's the core of your team right now. That is the core. Like, that's masterful freedom and flexibility to the point that even Tom Gores, who's like, I want to win now. I really want to win really bad. But what I'm seeing right now, I think I like that a lot better of where we're going. And he said it. Tom Gores said Monty Williams' effect on his team, just kind of tie it back around, tie it home. He says he didn't expect to see it this fast. And I didn't know if it was going to hit this fast either. But the one question that I asked a lot of the players and Coach Monty Williams at Media Day was, how confident are you in your team that you all are able to hit the ground running? And all of them, I mean, even Cade, just when I asked him that, he just looked at me like, oh, we ready? We're ready, man. We're ready. Asar, I just want to hoop. I'm going to surprise people. Monty Williams said, oh, yeah, we're going to be good because we're going to defend. These are the types of questions the answers that I got back to the question. Isaiah Stewart, yeah, no, we're confident. Jaden Ivey, I got to ask him that question at Woodward Park, where we got to kind of chat just a little bit more, kind of off to the side. He's like, no, we're confident. We've been working. And it didn't feel like the contrived aspects of work we saw in the past where the team did team events and we're boxing each other and all of that. This felt more like, I didn't see too many gym videos. I didn't see too much of the individual workout. You just heard reports from outsiders saying that these guys are putting in work. Man, look at the pictures. Each game, Cade is getting double, triple, quadruple teamed. You saw what Miami did. Spoelstra was out there, man. Out there at the Team USA, right? He said, oh, yeah, we got a way that we're going to try and defend Cade. We don't know how successful it's going to be, but we got a way we're going to try and defend him.
No, man,
Last words, brother?
This week is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because you got Portland, you're playing at New Orleans. Phoenix is here on Sunday, and then you got the back-to-back. Phoenix Golden State is not going to be an easy back-to-back, and then you get into that part of the scary part of the schedule: Phoenix, Golden State, Milwaukee, and Philly. Philly looks like a different team without Harden, and when they get those other pieces, does that still put them in that sort of almost favorite in the East conversation? I mean, maybe if you're talking about this in-season tournament, Sixers, Hawks, Cavs, Pacers, who really scares you in that group of 4 teams?
I don't know yet.
Give it some time. Give it some time. Because the key to where the Pistons are going to be is that Embiid matchup has always been an issue going back to the Andre Drummond years. Is Duren going to get to a spot where he can do something with Embiid? That's what I'm really eager to see. And that Philly game is still a ways away. But we've talked about Duren's ascent. Can he get to a point where he can just not be clowned by Embiid? That's what I want to see. That's what I really want to see.
I can't wait. This is the week of tests. You started off 500, and honestly, I want to see them go out there and handle the Portland Trailblazers at home, who are 1-3 to start the season, and I want to see them give themselves a game in hand as they go into kind of this tough part of the schedule. Traditionally, they have matched up well with the Warriors because the Warriors traditionally haven't had the bigs to be able to stay, even when the Pistons were down bad and the Warriors were just in their heyday. Yeah, I remember the jersey retirement, I believe, of Ben Wallace. I was there, and they just absolutely handled them. And so these are going to be some interesting matchups. I believe as it relates to testing where they are, I think the thing that's going to be tested the most is just their mettle. Are they going to be able to keep up this energy that they've had, throughout this, to start the season, throughout the season? Or are they just kind of on this high adrenaline rush right now that's going to meter out? I don't believe it's going to just kind of, fizzle out. I believe that what we see is kind of real. Even if they don't win some games, I believe that competing every night that Troy Weaver said, he didn't say he wants to see it. He said that they will do it every single night. And it sounded to a lot of fans like just talk and trying to sell tickets until you saw the first 4 games of this season. So, man, I thought this episode was fire, man. You brought some heat, Rod. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. That this next week, because I think if I want to see Stewart and Zion, I think I'm gonna sit down and just pop some popcorn and watch all of that on Thursday. But the Phoenix, Golden State, Milwaukee, Philly, that's a murderer's row. We talked about that at the beginning of the year, 4 games. If they can win 2 of those, I will feel a certain way about this team.
Man, we're gonna talk
because it'll mean that it'll mean that they can throw haymakers with some of the elite teams in the league. Cool. That's it. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, you know what? And I will let that be the last word. We started with Rod's thoughts. We ended with Rod's thoughts. I like that, actually. So, hey, look.
Yep.
As always, you guys, it's the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. I'm your boy, Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid. Shout out to Mr. Jeffrey Ayerfredi as well. Like I told you guys, we got some pretty cool things planned for you all, and he's going to be bringing even more Pistons coverage to the Morning Woodward show. And we're going to try and feature a few more people from the beat to give their perspectives as well, things that they're seeing, things that they have acclamation to. It's going to be pretty cool. And but you guys know what time it is. Let's get the legend here drum rolled out. Hey, yo! Shout out and thank you to the legend, Detroit News Rod Beard, Mr. Chief. I appreciate you as always, brother.
All right, bro. We'll talk to you. Have a good week.
Thank you, man. All love. Hey, till next time, you all.